So we are here with Halimah. Many thanks for being on Salonexit and taking your time to answer these few simple questions about your practice. Maybe first of all, how were you introduced to art, and how did you become interested in art in general?
I think I've always sort of, as far as I remember, always made art in some way. But the part that I can sort of remember being exactly interested in starting to create art was through fashion. Because when I was younger, I used to really want to be a fashion designer. So when I was about 7 years old, I used to make these little paper booklets and just draw loads of fashion illustrations. And through that, I just became quite interested in bodily forms and like faces as well. I think they're the two things I always go back to. But I also still kept the practice of liking things in fashion when it comes to like textures and the way things feel. So I try and replicate that in art visually and just get like a calm feeling from a picture, or maybe a sort of like eerie feeling, or like something dark, which I quite like. I like the feeling behind it because I'm quite like a sensory person in general. So yeah.
Nice. In your like general practice, your sketches, the illustrations you do, you can still see the fashion illustration type of an approach to like the whole composition, how you kind of place it. Kind of, now that I think about it, I didn't know that before. Now that I think about it, it kind of reminds me of those fashion sketches. Do you have any favorite artists, as if for like an inspirational ones?
The artist that I like changes a lot depending on my mood and like where I'm at. But the one that I always go back to is like Aubrey Beardsley. I really like his style, and I especially like his use of colour, or like the lack of colour really. And like the tones as well. And I feel like, not intentionally, but I feel like I also like to practice using very specific tones and a very specific colour palette, because it just emulates just sort of like something natural, a bit more like skin tone, or like different variations of that, or different feelings are like really earthy tone colours, so like browns and greens, black, like on that range. I also really just like his pen and ink illustrations a lot, because there's so much depth behind it, and he does it by using like very little or like a lot of detail, which I like, which again relates to fashion illustrations too. And yeah, I like the look of that. It looks quite dissected, or something sort of warped, and quite eerie too. And then something else that I go back to is sculpture. So if I need any, like if I'm in desperate need of inspiration, I find myself always going back to like a sculpture artist or something. I'm like, okay, let me go see. Like,
Are you looking at the forms, or just like the purely the forms, or maybe like just the aesthetics of it?
I think a bit of both. A lot of the time, I think it's sort of the way it feels. I like things that are quite soft or sharp. An artist I really like is Maria Betasova, because I like the way her work, it looks very feminine, but not in the sense of like gender, more just like the feeling behind it and like the energies. And the methods that she uses are quite like unorthodox but very natural, like eggshells, or like making stuff like from hand, or it looks like something's been from like a frozen lake, or like ice, like it's been stopped in time. But I like that aspect of it. It's a hard object, but it still looks like there's like a soft feeling behind it, or something sharp.
Like a nice contrast.
Yeah.
What's the most enjoyable part of your practice? And here we talked about in a like messaging, we talked about the collages when we were talking about how freeing it is. You know, the collages part.
Yeah, I really like making collages. I think now they're my favourite, because I never used to do that. I think my work used to be a lot more minimal, which is also part of my practice. Basically what I do, I just put on some music and then just draw, and then see like, oh, what's going to happen. But I never really plan any of it. I think if I'm dealing with like more intense feeling or something, I'm like, there's a lot here, so let me just have lots of other things going on, which is what happens with my collages. And I think that happened more when I started playing with different processes, because instead of it just being about the actual drawing and like the meditative aspect, I wanted to make that a bit like put a bit more depth behind that, so I can like play about, because I like art being about play as well. So say for like a few of them, I will go through a few different processes. I have like stencils that I like to use in a few different pieces just to like link it together, because these are, it almost feels like little entities, like spiritual entities that I'm like, I need to like hide this somewhere in my art.
Okay, last question. If you could visit one artistic period, which would it be and why? Like classical or whatever artistic times?
I find that so difficult. There's like so many.
Maybe
I
like living artists from past, I don't know, maybe some.
Oh, artists from I really like. I quite like surrealism. I really like surrealism. Just a lot going on. I like the feeling in a lot of paintings and stuff that you see. Like it feels sort of melty. Like you don't really have a concept of time, or it's quite abstract and just quite like strange, and could be quite dark and quite like you can feel something, or distorted images and Fauvism as well, like Matisse, and distorted, any sort of distortion. Yeah, I like that. And again, goes back to like Beardsley as well, with like silhouettes too, and just that eerie feeling.
Yeah, that's such an interesting period of time.
Yeah.
Such an interesting. If you think about it, it's like such a giant leap in thinking, right?
Yeah.
Going from normal to warped.
Yeah.
How did they like...
I always think about it and I'm like, something happened. It was probably something with the economy.
Yeah, definitely. It was like, oh God, everything is warped. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for this little talk.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.